In a way, looking after a nature reserve is wildlife gardening on a massive scale. I've come to RSPB Sandwell Valley for some inspiration. David Domoney is an RSPB ambassador, chartered horticulturalist and broadcaster. Hi David.
How are you doing?
We are in RSPB Sandwell Valley. We're looking at the wildlife garden here. David, what can you see around us here that will work well in a smaller garden or maybe a balcony?
Well, quite a lot of things really. Everybody naturally assumes that a wildlife reserve is something massive out in the open, but it's not. Anything where there's greenery and nature encourages a whole host of different creatures. So the smallest plants that are on a balcony, on a windowsill or a window box, or pots or containers. But if you've got bigger gardens, trees and shrubs, it's about food, it's about habitat, and it's about encouraging a whole range of creatures to where you are.
It's really interesting to see here that there's lots of plants in flower, even though it's still really cold. How can we best keep that pollinator season going, that flowering season going throughout the year?
Well, there is something that can support pollinators and all other creatures that are resident during the winter time. There are plants for almost every day of the year that are doing some good for the creatures that live. From early on in the season, things you don't even have to plant in your garden, and that's leaving your dandelions to flower early on in the season when there aren't many other flowers about to provide, a useful source of energy for bees. Right the way through to berrying during the autumn time, flowers during the summertime. But it's not just about food, it's habitats as well. We have our own back gardens, which are our own little nature reserves. And by having plenty of plants in there to provide food, to attract a range of creatures, both insects as well as birds and mammals and amphibians, of course, but also habitat as well. So in many cases, we naturally think that we've got to do a lot of work in the garden, when in fact, it's the reverse. The nature reserve has lovely wildlife areas, which become great shelter and protection for wildlife that visits. One of the big tips is to leave areas of your garden slightly wild. It's less work for you and great for the creatures that visit.
Nature needs water for drinking, for bathing, for growing. But not many of us have room for something like this. What's an easier way for people to bring water into their gardens?
Well, obviously, a garden pond has been traditionally the place to bring water in, but, just simply a washing up bowl left outside for the birds to bathe in. It's perfect for the birds and great to watch as well. But I also do in my garden, I've got a couple of plastic saucers that big pots sat in, but you could use dinner plates just as easy. And I create a little beach with some gravel, and then I put the water in so the birds could drink the water straight from the side, but the bees have a good landing point on the gravel to be able to go in and have a drink. So simply making sure there's a regular supply of fresh water in your garden will help the creatures that visit.
We're here with Margaret and Edwina. Now, what have you two been doing this morning? You've been planting something, haven't you?
We have. We've been planting some sedum, and we're also planting some valerian, little plants that we've managed to find in various places. It was hotter.
Yeah, these little plants actually have set themselves in the gravel, and we enticed them out. We put them in pots and we're about to plant them out again. And it is a lovely, lovely plant, and it comes with a beautiful raspberry coloured flower. Absolutely brilliant.
It's easy to propagate yourself, isn't it, really? Finding offsets, and the birds help us so much, because you end up with plants in your garden that you never planted yourself, but they've taken a seed and drop it in.
And that's where we get the majority of our plants.
Really?
Yes, we do.
People think that birds are pretty good gardeners, really, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. It's amazing what we find.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what's the valerian good for? Is it good for bees, for other pollinators?
These are brilliant for the bees. But also what we find on really warm days in the summer, the hummingbird hawk moth is really attracted to these plants, and for us that's a real bonus. It is absolutely, yes.
And the sedum, of course, have absolutely beautiful flowers, dark pink, reddy flowers with the lovely flat tops on them, which the pollinators, the butterflies, absolutely.
And it's late in the season as well, when a lot of things are finishing.
This goes right into autumn.
This is excellent for autumn.
It is.
Yeah.
So these are both autumn plants, aren't they? These are both autumn flowering.
Yes, to autumn more. This is more autumn, isn't it? Yes, yeah.
What should people be planting, sowing seeds of in March and April?
I mean, we would be planting things that are going to flower later in the year. Beckias, echinacеas,
Cosmos, cornflower,
lovely.
Yeah. Forget-me-nots.
forget-me-nots,
Poppies.
poppies.
Yes.
Put it in your till.
I'll take the ice plant. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Well, visiting RSPB Sandwell Valley today has given me loads of inspiration for my own garden. How about you, David?
Well, I've always found that coming to a reserve, especially that supports birds, it's not just the visual effect of the plants, we're always accompanied by beautiful birdsong.
It's been lovely here today. And if you want some more inspiration for your own wildlife garden, go to the Nature on Your Doorstep section of the RSPB website. Happy gardening!
Happy gardening.